Welcome to Abundance. You guessed it, a podcast dedicated to all things surrounding dance. I am Kristen.
And I am Hannah, and we are two best friends who are brought together by this art form.
Please join us in 5, 6, 7, 8.
Here's a word from our sponsor. So we're back with another special guest today. We have the wonderful Liam Fitzpatrick, and we know him from Mercyhurst University. We met Liam our freshman year when he was a transfer student, and we witnessed him grow so much over the 3 years at Mercyhurst University, and we're so impressed by how he's created a name for himself since graduation. And we're just so excited to have him here. He's iconic, and yeah, we're just excited for everyone to hear what he has to say. So
thank you. I love that word. Iconic is a word that I identify with.
Yes, welcome, Liam. We're so happy to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me.
So we're a little curious. Obviously, we got to know you quite a bit, especially our freshman years. We took some of the same classes together. But what actually made you decide to transfer to Mercyhurst from the previous school you were attending?
So the previous school that I was at, it had a dance program, but it wasn't a curriculum that I really felt was pushing me. I felt very comfortable and stagnant, and I recognized that, if I wanted to go off and work professionally, that I needed to be training a lot harder. But at the same time, there's the responsibility of you need a degree, you need to have all of these things, you need to have credentials. So I was looking for a program that was really going to give me the best of both worlds, like a really reputable program that people know, that I could walk away with life skills, even, God forbid I didn't make it in dance. I would still have an education behind me. And I auditioned at Mercyhurst. I saw the intensity of the program, and I was never a ballet dancer. I always wanted to do contemporary and commercial, and I still am going to back up dance for Beyonce one day. But ballet was never my choice, but I recognized that it was where I needed the most work. And I think that the versatility that training offered me, being focused in ballet, but experimenting in other things, I think that really did wonders for me. So it was really the ballet and the level at which I would be dancing all the time that made me pick Mercyhurst.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you for sharing. And honestly, I give you a lot of credit for choosing the route that you felt like would help fill those kind of gaps, or where you felt like you needed to work on, because I know we as dancers are perfectionists, and often we like to just kind of do what is most comfortable or what we feel like we're the best at. So I think it's really wonderful that you acknowledged maybe what your strengths are and what needed a little bit more work, and you really took that and put it into action.
Thank you. I mean, I think that dance, a lot of the time, it's really hard, right? You're going to have people telling you no all the time. You're going to have people telling you could work on this, you could work on this. But if you can't self-correct and you can't say, hey, you really need to work on this, you're not going to go very far. Something that I've noticed is that I always make the most progress when I'm honest with myself, when I say, hey, that really sucks. So you need to do that again. And I think that a lot of dancers are like that. I think that we're hard on ourselves for good reason. I think it's really important to be able to just be honest with yourself, and as a professor of ours used to say, have a come to Jesus moment every so often, and just be like, wow, I really need to work on that. I really need to fix that. And it wasn't always easy. I remember leaving ballet class crying many times, but I'm glad I did it, because it set me up for everything that life had down the road.
That's really great. And especially as we move forward in our careers, like we're all doing, there's a lot less hand holding. So like you said, that self-correcting and kind of taking things into your own hands is definitely a lot more critical in actually being successful. Whereas when we're younger and we're training, there is a lot more of that hand holding from our teachers, our mentors, or whomever we're working with.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, so Liam, going off of that, you have, as you said, a strong background in ballet and also commercial dance. Do you find that these are complementary to each other, or do you see them as separate entities in your career?
It's all the same thing. And I teach this to all of my students. It is all the same thing. You have one body and you have one set of muscles, and there is one way to move your body. And the thing that honestly helped me the most in, figuring out how to move and how to choreograph really is just recognizing that it's all movement. I'm not a ballet dancer or a contemporary dancer or a commercial dancer or a street dancer. I'm just a dancer. And if you can make one line, you can make another one. It's just how are you willing to manipulate it, and how are you willing to change the music and figure out a different way of holding yourself. It's all the same thing, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. I can yeah, I love that perspective.
I feel like I personally often, when people ask, what do you do, or, oh, what kind of dance do you do? And you say you're a dancer, I usually associate myself as, oh, I'm a ballet dancer, but then I'll kind of throw in, but like, I can do other styles too. But like you're saying, at the end of the day, we're dancers. That is really what it is. So I do like that perspective as well.
And I think it's less scary to think about in a way that it's all just dance. I think it helps you take the edge off of, walking into a new class, maybe a style that you've taken before with a different teacher, because every teacher is going to have different stylistic tendencies that are rooted somewhere. Like my contemporary class is very rooted in ballet. And I've taken contemporary classes that are rooted in hip hop, and you have to be able to know all of it, and you have to be able to be ready for whatever the choreographer throws at you. So just the more that you become adaptable and stay versatile and stay working, it's all dance. It's all the same thing.
Right. Yeah. And as Miss Hunter would say back at school, make room for change. So it's got to be ready for anything and just kind of roll with the punches.
100%.
And I think too that then almost leads you up, or like prepares you for potentially more opportunities in your career as well. Because if you just get really stuck on, oh, I am this specific type of dancer, then you might miss out on other job opportunities that come up that maybe are a little bit outside of your comfort zone, but you are completely capable of doing.
I agree with that for sure. Some of the gigs that I've booked, whether it be choreography or performing, some of those gigs were outside of my comfort zone by a choreographer whose style I was unfamiliar with. And when you get into it, it's a different thing. Like you realize, oh, I can do this. Like I have just never been made to move my body like this, but I actually can do it. And some of my favorite pieces that I've ever performed, the choreographer was setting them. I was like, oh my God, what is this? This movement is weird. It doesn't feel good. I don't know. And then I got it in my body. I watched it back. I was like, that was awesome. That was so cool. It was so much fun. And then I would go ahead and, take movement qualities that I enjoyed from that and diversify myself as a dancer and a choreographer. And it's just an ever-growing process. Like you keep picking and choosing things that you like and developing your own artistry and using things that speak to you.
Yes, snaps to that. So good. I love the way that you're wording all of these things. It all makes a lot of sense, Liam. So thank you for your comments.
Oh, not a problem. I think it's really important to, how do I say this? I think it's really important to just stay humble, stay in it. It's very ego driven. It's very, dancers are expected to suffer for their art. And I think that we forget that we're artists and we're sensitive and we're supposed to love what we do. And if we don't love what we do, it's too hard to do. If you can't find joy in it, then for me, there's no point in doing it. And I've come to that point a couple of times in my career where I've just said, I don't love what I'm doing right now. This is too hard for me. And I really had to go back to square one and remind myself, why do I do this? Why have I pushed myself to get to this point? And why am I not going to let myself stop now? And it always just comes back to, I love to dance. It makes me feel good. It's a part of who I am.
Yeah, that's very relatable. I think not only to us, but to many, many other dancers out there. So Liam, I'm curious. So we've always been pretty impressed by how you market yourself on social media. So do you think that this is something that's important for everyone to kind of have their own brand, or do you see it as something more specific or necessary to the type of work that you're doing now?
I think, especially post-COVID, the dance world has changed and it's not going back. I think that online presence is very important no matter what. I can't really speak to, performing with a company in particular, but I can speak to times where I've been seeking dancers for projects and I'm scouting on social media. Your social media is your business card. It's a 30-second summary of everything you can do and who you are and what you look like and what kind of dancer you are. And I have cast people just based on the last 3 improv videos that they posted. I didn't need to see them move in a group. I didn't need to see any of these things. So I think it's really important, even if you're not specifically, a casting director or air quote a commercial dancer, I think that your social media should be the truest representation of who you are. I think, kind of going off what you said, I've always had a strong idea of the image I wanted to project of myself. And I'm not saying to misrepresent yourself, but I'm saying to be the idealized version of yourself, that, be the person you want to be booking jobs. You can book jobs from across the country. You can book jobs in another country. And so if people can see exactly what they're getting in 30 seconds to a minute, it's only going to help.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that with that, I've noticed over the years, some dancers, they have kind of, say on Instagram, for example, a personal account and then an account geared towards dance and, posting specifically dance photos and videos. Do you like that approach, or do you think it should all just be together as one account? This is me, my personal life, and who I am as a dancer, and they are interconnected.
So that's actually really hard. And I have chosen the approach that my Instagram is a professional representation of myself. I'll drop a selfie every now and again. I will post bigger moments of my life on there, but first and foremost, my Instagram is my business card, and I want people to search me, and I want them to see my choreography and what time my classes are at, and where they can find me and how they can reach me. I have never had 2 separate accounts for my personal and my dance. They have slowly melded into one. If you go back on my Instagram, to 2012, you'll see me in high school, at IHOP. But I just kind of decided that, dance needs to be my focus. And I don't feel the need so much anymore to document every aspect of my personal life for the world to see. Something else that I figured out, just kind of dance aside, but tangentially related, is that I'm a private person. Aside from the fact that I'm producing these videos with the strobe lights and the fog and the hair fans and the this and the that. I like Liam to be for Liam, and I think that a lot of performers have their self, right? Their true authentic self, and then they have their stage self, their alter ego, whatever you want to call it. And so for me, it was very easy to just say, Liam's going to post on his close friend's story when he wants them to see something. And for the public, they're just going to see my choreography and they're just going to see what I have to offer in the dance aspect.
That's all very interesting. And I think the way you've chosen to do it personally, and I think it works differently for every individual and their path and what they're doing. But I would definitely attest that, you know, it is really easy with what you do to see what you're up to when you're offering classes, those kinds of things, because I feel like that's how Hannah and I have kind of been able to keep up with all of the work you've done since graduation. And like we said, we're very impressed by it all. So I think you're very successful at what you're aiming to do through your approach of social media.
I appreciate that a lot. It's interesting for me to hear because in my head, I'm still Liam. I haven't changed at all. And I, you know, perception is reality. And I think that it's just very interesting to hear. I haven't seen you guys in such a long time that, you know, nothing has changed, but everything's different all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really cool to kind of have this full circle moment where you guys are asking me questions about, you know, my career when I feel like I haven't really changed my formula at all. And I think that this is a testament that like perception is reality. And if you put out an image of something, that people will look at that and take it into consideration.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I also think like during this time, you kept producing work, like even during COVID, when there was so much isolation and we couldn't be all together, like in a studio taking class all the time, you were still putting out those videos. And that was just really inspiring to me because I was like, wow, like look at him go, like he's doing the thing. And even during this, you know, this period of isolation, you're still able to produce and to make work. And that's what's so interesting, I feel like, about what you're doing right now. Like, yeah, even though we haven't seen you in so long, but you're still like, out of everyone, I feel like from school, you were the one that was really going for it and still producing during this time. So I really commend you for that.
Thank you so much. It literally means the world to me to hear that. During quarantine specifically, if I didn't produce something, I was going to lose it. I was going to go crazy because I had no outlet. None of us did. And I was just really fortunate. I honestly, guys, my entire career has just been me being really fortunate in the right place at the right time, and I knew the right person. The only reason that I was able to produce these videos is because one of my good friends happened to pick up a camera one time, and he's like, I want to try dance videography. And he's built, you know, since the beginning of quarantine, and now he's one of the front running dance videographers in Boston. I'm so proud of him, but it's just keep going, like just keep doing your thing. Don't listen to what other people think you should or should not do. I don't think that if I ever said I want to own a production company and produce concept videos and somehow that will be my career, that anybody would think that that was a good idea or feasible. But it spoke to me and I wanted to do it and I gave it a shot and it happened. So just keep that in mind the next time that you're having a moment, the next time that things don't feel like they make sense, the next time that you are tired and you're wondering like, why am I doing this? It's because it speaks to you and it's because you're doing it because you have to, because it's a part of who you are.
That's really beautiful. I have two questions for you now, Liam. One, just kind of small little question, but I know at Mercyhurst we had to do those classic dance for camera projects for our classes. For you, was that kind of where this all originated, these films that you do now, or was this kind of something you were always interested in or developed further after graduation, or was it kind of that small little project that sparked this for you?
So, funny story. The first time we got a dance for camera project at Mercyhurst, I was like, oh, hell yeah. because I had actually been doing it since 2015, and I was like, they're not ready. Like they're not, they're not ready. The first dance for camera project that I actually did was in 2015. It was to a Beyonce song, believe it or not. It was to Pretty Hurts, and it was to call attention to National Bullying Awareness Month.
Wow.
When I was growing up, I was bullied a lot. I felt like an outcast. I didn't really fit in. And there were things that carried over into my adult life that I was still working through, and I wanted to advocate for those people who felt ostracized, felt like they didn't belong, who had been called fat and ugly and worthless and untalented and this and that and the other thing. So that's where that started for me. And I, again, was in the right place at the right time. My roommate at the time was a film studies major, and he wanted to collaborate with me. He was like, I've never shot a dance video. I was like, I've never shot a dance video. So we gave it a shot, and it blew up. And it was something that every so often when I had free time, I would find dancers who wanted to work for free. And this was back when I wasn't taking choreography so seriously, and I was just kind of like throwing steps together and being like, let's edit it artsy. So then when the Dance for Camera projects at Mercyhurst started coming, I started to really put thought into it, and I started to really go, okay, I have this exposure with the technical elements. Now I really want to focus on the choreography, and how do I showcase that in the best way possible?
Mm-hmm.
And then it just kind of grew from there. But it was something that I had been doing for quite a long time before I came to Mercyhurst.
Very interesting. Yeah, I didn't know about that. Not that I really necessarily would, but it's cool to see that this was kind of your own creation to begin with. So my second question is, now we see that you've kind of gravitated towards these film projects a lot, and during COVID, obviously live performances were not a thing. So now that we're moving towards hopefully a future where we're seeing more and more live performances again, do you have interest in choreographing for like concerts and shows, or do you think that you're going to stick with kind of this dance film realm for a while, or maybe do
the thing? I think that I don't have to pick. I think that the field right now is in a place where I can do both. And that's a strength, because I don't think that every piece requires a film.
Mm-hmm.
But I also feel that, I love choreographing, whether it's for the camera or for the stage. I love creating. So if I get to do that at all, I feel successful. I think that I have to pick and choose jobs now, because there are some things that call to me a little bit more, and the dancers in my head do more for one concept than the other. There are times when I just want to set a piece for the stage, and I want that to be what it is. And then sometimes I will like watch the film play in my head, and I'm like, this needs to be a film. And I think that also something that I've noticed in the field is that even live performances now are starting to utilize film projections, and they're getting really creative with how they're mixing the mediums. Like they'll have dancers on stage and on film behind themselves, dancing back up for themselves. Like people are getting so creative with how they're melding those two things. I just think it's all really exciting, and I'm glad that I don't feel like I have to choose, because I wouldn't want to.
Yeah, that's wonderful. Like we were saying earlier, there really is no need to put yourself in those kinds of boxes. I was just curious if you really did see yourself gravitating towards one or the other, but your response was just lovely. And I also have um, done a little bit at NYU. I did a project where I kind of mixed both mediums a little bit too. And it's really exciting and cool. It's something I hadn't thought about doing so much in the past, but like you said, there's a lot of opportunity there.
I think it's a lot of fun. I think that I I don't think, sorry to like give like a roundabout answer. I realized in hindsight I didn't actually answer your question. I just kind of rambled for a minute. Um, I don't think that I would pick one or the other because I feel like each one has its strengths and weaknesses. I feel like there's nothing like seeing a performance live. The feeling of sitting in the audience and watching it and knowing that the dancers may or may not get it perfectly. They may or may not do so. There may be an understudy that night. There may be something else. And there's an excitement in that. And also as the performer, there's a little bit of anxiety in that. And in a film aspect, you're going to shoot it until it's perfect. And you're going to get everything super just exactly the way you want it, which is also fun. But you lose some of the realness of it. So there are strengths and weaknesses to both of them.
Absolutely.
Liam, I have a question for you now.
Hit me.
As you kind of hinted, we know Beyonce is a major influence in your life and your work and who you are.
Yes.
You say your alter ego is Beyonce. So you're talking about the Liam versus, the performer side of you. Is Beyonce the performer?
Beyonce is the performer. Beyonce is the businessman. Beyonce is the inner power that I call on when when Liam does not feel confident to step into a situation. And the reason, that I have chosen this, other than the fact that Beyonce is my Lord and Savior, is that I think that everybody needs to have the ability to boss up. Like, you need to be able to walk into a room and say, this is what I offer, this is what I have. If you like it, great, let's work together. If you don't like it, okay, awesome, I'm going to go and find an opportunity that suits me. And in dance, you have to advocate for yourself. You have to know your worth, and you have to be firm in your decision making, because otherwise there get to be too many cooks in the kitchen. For instance, on a production, I can have a team of 4 videographers, 12 dancers, a co-choreographer, this, that, or the other thing. And with all of those artists in the room, it gets really difficult. There are a lot of great ideas flying around, but if there's no solid vision, it lacks cohesion. And so that is a point in which Beyonce would step in and say, this is the decision that I've made artistically. This is what we're doing. And it's just kind of a way for me to recognize, like, own your power and be confident in who you are and your vision.
Yes. Okay. So great. Also, I just was curious. So does Beyonce influence your creative process at all? Like, do you ever go back to her work and you're like, yes, this is how I want to create something? Or like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, is she your inspiration for choreography?
Yes. To put it shortly, yes. There have been times where, let me tell you guys, the amount of Beyonce performances that I've studied inside and out, but like, choreography aside, right? Like the lighting design, the musical transitions, how one color reacts off of another color. It really is the full experience. And if you haven't sat down and watched like a 13-minute Beyonce performance, I would highly recommend you do it, even if you're not a big fan, because everything is so clean. Every hair is in place. Every dancer is on the same line, the same angle. The colors are complementary, and there's a message. So not so much in like directly pulling from what she has done, but how she does what she does. Why did she choose those 2 colors? Why did she choose to have those 4 dancers doing that and then the other ones doing that? Why did she do X, Y, and Z things? So asking yourself visually, why is this pleasing to me, is something that I've done a lot watching Beyonce's performances that have in turn shaped how I choreograph. For instance, like during my senior capstone, I used a certain lighting cue on stage, and it wasn't a Beyonce lighting cue, but the way that I came to the decision of how I wanted to use that lighting cue, I was like, oh, I remember that one performance where the lights dropped out here and came up over here to divert attention, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, she definitely inspires me. And I put a lot of weight in thinking like, what would Beyonce do?
I love that. And I think, Hannah, I think we might have some homework we need to do after this episode.
I know, I've seen a lot of Beyonce videos, but I haven't like studied them in these ways. And I think we can learn by, you know, other performers too, like not just her. Like for you, Liam, like this is your icon. But I feel like all performers have something special about them. And I feel like we can all just kind of learn from each and every one of them in those ways. And I know,
100%.
yeah, and I know, Liam, like with what you're doing, I'm learning a lot from how you're creating. So like, I appreciate that too.
Yeah, we can learn from each other. Like you said, other performers or other choreographers. I think even just we all experienced this to some extent during our time at Mercyhurst when we were in our peers' choreography pieces. We were able to learn from their process and how they did things versus how we approached it when it was our own piece. So there's lots of room for picking up for inspiration. And like you said, Liam, you know, you're not necessarily like copying or imitating what she's doing necessarily, but what she does is a catalyst for what you do.
Exactly.
And it's
100%.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was going to say, it seems like Beyonce, though, really influences all aspects of your life, which is what I enjoyed hearing about. Like, it's who you are as a performer and a choreographer. You know, you as Beyonce and the way Beyonce puts on his work, you know? And that's just really inspiring and cool. So just thank you for being so open about how she inspires you.
I mean, thank you for asking. It's not a question. It's not a question that I get to answer very often. And I think when people hear the Beyonce thing, they're like, "Oh Jesus! Like, come on, give me a break." Like we had a teacher who made a sarcastic reference to it one time in a choreography class, and I actually got a little snippy in that moment, and I was like, well, if you'd actually ever watched a performance, then you might understand what I'm actually getting at here. I'm gonna let you guys figure that one out because I'm pretty sure you know. If you know, you know.
And so, Liam, we've talked so much about these different film projects and stuff you've done. Where can our audience most easily access those if they'd like to watch some of these now after having listened to this?
Oh goodness. My Instagram is always a great place to start. It's Liam Say What, say with 2 Y's and what with 2 A's.
Perfect.
And then my website is www.theliamfitzpatrick.com. The only reason I picked that domain, this is a full disclaimer, the only reason I picked theliamfitzpatrick.com, it was $2.99, and liamfitzpatrick.com was like $1,500.
Oh
so
my God.
I picked theliamfitzpatrick.com.
I can understand why.
100%. So yes, either of those places, all of my work is linked there. Yeah, and then anybody who's in Boston, my open classes are also linked there. If you want to either come take a jazz class or a contemporary class, those are open to the public.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much today, Liam. We really enjoyed speaking with you, catching up a little bit, but also just hearing about what you've been up to and your just interesting perspective on all of this.
No, guys, thank you so much. It means so much to me that you reached out. I feel like I'm still just Liam. So just hearing my friends call me and like want to hear what I have to say means so much to me. It really, I can't say thank you enough for having me.
Yeah, no, of course. We're just so happy to have you on. So thank you.
Yes, and we'll
Not a problem at all.
Stay in touch. All right.
Awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks for tuning into Abundance. We appreciate your support. We hope to have PK'd your interest. Feel free to contact us at abundancepodcast5678@gmail.com and give us feedback on what you'd like to hear. That is abundance without parentheses. Go dance yourself silly. Bye for now.
A special thank you to Richard DiFiore for our lovely podcast tune and Matt Mellish for our cover art.